Well, welcome everyone tonight to our regular board meeting. Tonight is Monday, February 26th. We are starting at 6 o'clock on the dot. And I love that we are starting our board meeting and it's still it's light outside. So that's a signal that spring is coming. Okay, so at this time I'd like to do a call to order. Mrs. Wood?
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Norris?
Here.
Mr. Schwartz?
Present.
Dr. Shank?
Here.
Ms. Upchurch?
Here. At this time, I'd like to invite two of our Palmer Lake Elementary School 5th grade students, Hannah and Aubrey, to stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, ladies. Okay, at this time, we'll do an approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
Ms. Upchurch. I'll approve the agenda as presented. Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Questions, thoughts? No, Ms. Wood?
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Dr. Shank?
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch?
Aye. Okay, moving along to our section B, B1. I would like to welcome Mr. Antonio Cruz, commander of DAV Chapter 26, to present a plaque to our D38 staff. And our staff.
Watch your step.
On behalf of Disabled American Veterans, Mountfield Chapter 26 of Colorado Springs, it is our privilege to present to the school district with this small token of appreciation for what they've done for our chapter. And if I may, the flag reads, the veterans wish to thank Lewis Palmer School District, District 38, for the generous gift. Through your charitable donation, you are making a significant impact in the lives of disabled veterans and their family. Dated February 26, 2024. Thank you so much.
Actually, can we do a
Come up
photo
and
op?
do a
real
photo
quick?
op.
We're going to make you redo, not the speech. Mr. Cruz,
Mr. Cruz.
can you join us for a picture up front here real quick? And Ms. Upchurch, if you'd like.
Yes.
That'd be great. We let you get away too early there, sir.
And just so you know what it's for, as a team here in the district, we encouraged our staff members to wear jeans one day and gave all the donations to this chapter of the veterans. And we're just excited that they were able to do this with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz.
So just to share a little bit more information on that, on November 15th, D38 sponsored, as was said, the Jeans for Veterans fundraiser event, and the school district staff wore blue jeans and contributed to the Disabled American Veterans. At the December 11th meeting, we presented a check for $1,500, which was presented to Commander Cruz. So thank you again, team, and to the D38 staff, and congratulations, and thank you for your service. All right, moving on to beat number 2. We have some student recognitions, and I am very excited to introduce Mr. Steve Waldman, who is our D38 chess team coach. And he's going to speak to us about our recent 17th annual Lewis Palmer School District Chess Tournament that was held on Saturday, February 4th at Bear Creek Elementary.
Okay. On Saturday, we held the 17th annual Lewis Palmer School District Chess Tournament. We had 127 kids in the tournament. That's the highest number we've ever had. And I think it's either the first or the second largest school district chess tournament in the state of Colorado. So we had just outstanding good sportsmanship at the chess tournament. Everyone was just a wonderful player. They treated their opponents with respect. And I'd like to thank Principal Potter and his family. Principal Potter let us use his whole school, which was magnificent. But even beyond that, on Friday night, he brought his family in, and they helped us set up for the tournament. So that was just magnificent. It's never happened before. I also need to thank Mark, the custodian at Bear Creek Elementary School. He was a tremendous help. We had a lot of volunteers, and we cannot do this chess tournament without volunteers. We had Key Club kids. We had National Honor Society kids. We had a lot of referees to solve any disputes in the chess games. We had Nancy Roberts, the gifted and talented teacher at at Palmer Lake Elementary School. She was a big help in the chess tournament. Cindy Waldman, who's the reading teacher at Bear Creek Elementary School, she was a big help. And so because of all the help, the tournament runs super smoothly. And I really, really appreciate the support of the district in allowing us to do this every year. It just means a lot for these kids. And what we had grades kindergarten through 6th grade. They played each other, and then the middle school kids played each other, and the high school kids played each other. And we gave trophies to the first 3 places in each grade. And tonight I brought some of the trophy winners here, and I'd like them to be recognized. And so when I read your name, go ahead and step forward or raise your hand so everyone can see who you are, okay? I have to put on my glasses. I can't see. So in 1st grade, we had 2nd place, Dallin Davis from Palmer Lake Elementary School. In 2nd grade, we had 1st place, Anjay Kulkins from Kilmer Elementary School. In 3rd grade, we had William Niedermeyer from Prairie Winds Elementary School. In 3rd grade, 3rd place was Evan Reese from Kilmer Elementary School. In 4th grade, 1st place was Max Lindemann from Bear Creek Elementary School. In 4th grade, 3rd place was Max Manovich from Prairie Winds Elementary School. In 5th grade, 1st place was Walter Hefter from Prairie Winds Elementary School. In 5th grade, 3rd place was Preston Petty from Palmer Lake Elementary School. In 6th grade, 1st place was Kyle Fieber from Prairie Winds Elementary School. In 6th grade, 2nd place was Oliver Liu from Prairie Winds Elementary School. In 6th grade, in 3rd place was Sloan Clary from Prairie Winds Elementary School. And then in high school, undefeated was Robbie Collier from Lewis Palmer High School, 1st place. So thank you very much. Wait, we're going to take some pictures here, I think. Okay, I'll stand behind you.
Congratulations, everybody.
Okay, good idea. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Come on in a little bit.
There we go. We got some parents who want to take some pictures too, so come on up, y'all.
Congratulations to each and every one of you. And Mr. Waldman, thank you so much. You've been doing this for as long as I can remember, and if it weren't for you, I don't know that we'd be as successful at this as all of our kids are, and I'm pretty sure most of those kiddos could probably whoop almost every one of us in a match. So thank you, and congratulations. Okay. Moving on to public comments.
You don't have any.
Okay. Do I need to read it?
No.
Oh, so I was going to read our public comments policy. However, we don't have any public comments tonight. We do have one digital comment that was submitted regarding 4-day school weeks, and that is on our website and in our board docs under public comments. So, with that, we'll move along to our board member comments. We could start with Mr. Schwartz since he's on the phone. Mr. Schwartz, would you like to start, sir?
I would love to start. No comments this evening. Thank you, Ms. Upchurch.
Mr. Brown?
No comments for me, thank you.
Dr. Schenk?
No comments for me, thanks.
Mr. Norse?
I have nothing further.
Well, I have, take your seats and wait a while because I got some comments. Actually, I just wanted to fill everybody in on, I'm going to share the process with our superintendent search. As everybody's aware, we have this meeting and one more meeting with our esteemed Dr. Summers, and he will be missed. And so with that, we do have to find somebody to fill in his space. So we did our stakeholder survey, and that closed on February 22nd. And we do want to do a shout out and a special thank you to Mr. Mark Belcher and his team for your work on distributing and advertising the survey and the invitations. We had over 1,000 responses, actually 110 to be exact. And we'll be working over the next 10 days. Dr. Walt Cooper will be developing the final stakeholder report, which will be forwarded to us at the Board of Education upon completion, and then we'll be discussing that at an upcoming meeting. Of those that were surveyed, the breakdown of respondents were parents. There were 692 parents that filled it out for a total of 69% of the surveys responding. Community members and former parents or other was 163, which is about 16% of the respondents. Staff members, there was 146 staff members that responded for 14%, and also 9 students completed the survey. So we will be reviewing that work, and then our next steps in the process is we are currently accepting applications, and there's a link on our website if you are not aware. That will close on February 28th, and that application is for the committee that will be meeting at a time to be determined with Dr. Walt Cooper, and then what the committee will be doing is based on the results of the survey. Dr. Cooper will be working with the committee, and the committee will develop about 6 to 9 questions that will be asked at a public forum that will be held on April 4th. And so the committee decides and forms those questions. And then the forum will have our finalists that'll be sitting similar to us. There will be about 2 to 4 finalists on the panel, and then from those questions, everybody in the community will have an opportunity to share through a QR code their thoughts on the strengths and weaknesses. And how this is different than what we've done in the past is we used to have smaller groups. We used to have a small group of people that would have those same types of interview questions, and then the small group would give the feedback of strengths and weaknesses. So this one opens it up to a larger stakeholder group, so there's an opportunity for everyone, more voices to be heard. And then from that, on April 5th, we as a board will be interviewing the finalists as well. There will be a time for a meet and greet of the finalists, and then we will be deciding on our new superintendent at our March meeting. Yes, at the end of our, which is at our March meeting, and that date is going to be March 20th. And then we will, as that's when we'll discuss the final candidates. And then April 15th. I am so sorry. April 15th. April 15th is when we will be voting. So it'll be our April meeting that we vote on the finalists. And then our superintendent will join us in July. And then pending tonight's vote, we will have an acting superintendent between then and July and now when Dr. Summers leaves in April. So if you want any more information, you can please visit lewispalmer.com's website, and there's under the Board of Education, there is a link, and you can see all the public meetings we've had so far, all the deliberation we've had so far. Another piece that we are doing is we as board members have been visiting all the buildings and talking to our staff, talking to our PTOs, our accountability meetings, and we're wanting to have that two-way dialogue. And the feedback that comes from that two-way dialogue will be what we also use in our deliberation and when we're determining who's going to be the best fit for D38. So your voice does matter, and so please continue to engage. And we're always open to questions if you want to send us any emails on that. Some people have asked, why did we choose Jacobson and McPherson and Jacobson? There was 4 reasons, and the main reason was they have the ability to do the search in a way that is non-biased. It is a third party. It keeps the process fair and open and transparent. And then it's structured and it's independent and it's objective. They also have the ability to cast a wider net and find candidates that we as a board just don't have that network. And so far they've actually put out the application is online, and it's cast out to about 2,000 applicants, and that's just not a reach that we would have been able to do. They also have the ability to do background searches that we don't have the resources as much to do. So it's more efficient, it's more transparent, it's more fair. So that's why we chose McPherson and Jacobson. And Dr. Walt Cooper is very familiar with the Pikes Peak region. He used to be a superintendent himself in Cheyenne Mountain School District. So, and with him comes a lot of experience and expertise and accolades. McPherson and Jacobson are well known for placing about 80% of their candidates stay for 5 years or more. And about 50% of their candidates stay for 10 years or more, and then about 40% stay for about 15 years or more. And if you know anything about superintendents right now, the average stay is about 2 to 5 years, so we've been very fortunate to have Dr. Summers with us. And so they also come with a 2-year guarantee. So let's say 2 years from now or next year, it's just not a good fit, we'll do it all over again. So we were very confident in that vote, and that's why we decided to partner with a third-party firm. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on that. I also had some other things I wanted to share. Again, I said, just take your time and wait. So the other thing I wanted to share was that Dr. Shank and I will be attending the Colorado Association of School Boards Winter Legislative Conference at the Capitol this Thursday and Friday. There's a lot of legislation coming out of the chambers right now. There's about 77 bills that are influencing education. And there's too many bills that I won't sit here and debrief. In the Colorado Association of School Boards Legislative and Resolutions Committee, we spent on Friday about an hour and a half, and we only got through about 15 bills. So there's a lot that's flying right now. I would encourage everybody to look into what bills there are. A lot of bills are going to affect education in Colorado and our school district, some good, some bad. And I would encourage everyone to reach out to your lawmakers, testify, and if I may, I'm just going to say this: how a person delivers their testimony and their words matters. Decorum and common sense makes a huge difference when you're engaging with our lawmakers and talking about the bills. So I just wanted to speak to that. And then, speaking of legislation, since our last board meeting in February, I spent some time out in DC with the Colorado delegation, along with board members across the United States, and we were advocating to Congress to step up and do what they promised, which is what they promised back in 1975 was to fund the Individual Disabilities Education Act. And that unfunded mandate, which is not supposed to be unfunded, it's supposed to be funded at 40% and is only funded currently at about 13. That's 13%. And that costs districts about twice as much to educate our students with disabilities. And of course, we will do it because it is the right thing to do. Always we're going to take care of our kids. But it also means that, make no mistake, that comes out of our general budget. And so we're going to continue to do what's right by kids. We're going to continue to take care of our kids. But in the meantime, we're going to also keep advocating. And there is some bipartisan support, so we are making some movement there. But we also recognize that different lawmakers in DC have different priorities of where they put things at the top. So we're just going to keep fighting for our kids. That's the best we can do. And then speaking of our students with disabilities, I also wanted to share that the applications for the Alorium Day Awards opened up on, let's see, that was Valentine's Day. And the ceremony for that is going to be April 24th at Lewis Palmer High School Auditorium. And to my fellow board members and to anybody who has not attended, I would strongly encourage you to attend an Alorium Day Award ceremony. And for those of you, if you know somebody out there, a student, a staff, or a community member that has made a difference in the lives of a student that is impacted, then nominate them. And it's just a quick nomination process. And then those that are nominated, it's one of the favorite things I do sitting on this board, and it's open to everybody in the community to be a part of. So I really encourage everybody to be a part of that. And then one last reminder, and then I will pass it off, is our Kiwanis are hosting the Stars for Tomorrow talent event on March 17th at Palmer Ridge High School at 2 o'clock. So please come and see our students shine. Dr. Summers?
Well done, President Upchurch. So with this being my penultimate update for you all, as you've come accustomed to, there's several accolades and great stories and pictures, so without further ado, let's continue to ground ourselves in our vision, mission, our strategic plan priorities, and our values, where we elevate the futures of every student every day. And so sometimes a picture says 1,000 words, and this is a very awesome story, which if you've seen some news media recently as well, I believe KRDO did a profile on this very special visit from the surgical team from UC Health coming to our 6th grade Prairie Winds elementary students classroom. So just a big shout out to this partnership where our students learned about the harmful effects of alcohol, the vital role of bystanders in emergencies, and the importance of promptly calling 911, among other approaches and strategies. Students practiced CPR on a life-size mannequin utilizing a breathing bag, and they also enjoyed all the hands-on surgical practice with an opportunity to wield real surgical instruments. Yes. So from incisions on skin reproductions to the removal of foreign objects and suturing, each student had the opportunity to actively engage in the simulated surgical procedure. And anytime you think about the future, including doctors and other professionals in our system, we're just very grateful for this partnership. Huge shout out to Prairie Winds Elementary. Another big shout out to, yes, thank you. That is well worth applause. And I feel like Prairie Winds is like half their staff is here, so. Good form tonight. We also are very excited to congratulate our speech and debate students who were crowned state champions from Lewis Palmer High School, including Jada Roberson as the state champion for program oral interpretation, and Anna Hacker as the state championship for Congress. And we earned state runner-up, 2nd place overall for those collective efforts. So just another big shout out to all of our students for participating and making our district very proud. Ray Kilmer Elementary School Literacy Night, as we've grown accustomed to hosting multiple literacy nights across our district. Our latest community was Kilmer, as they inspired a love of reading to include major components of literacy around phonemic awareness, reading comprehension, phonics, fluency and sight words, creating reading sensory bottles, and exploring the Pikes Peak Library District. So another big shout out. I'm not sure that bullet was the right bullet of student athletes, but those are student athletes when we think about all of the different activities that our kids are in. And I believe they were some reading mentors. Sorry, that is the right bullet. Mark, you can fail me later. Because yeah, good job, sir. All right, very good. Moving on, Lewis Palmer Elementary and Bear Creek Elementary School STEAM Nights. So big shout outs to both our LPES and Bear or BCES schools for placing an emphasis on science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. So this is an opportunity where our students will foster a love for these different engaging learning areas. And these are also awesome events where we welcome all of our families into our schools. And I do believe when we say hundreds of families, it absolutely is hundreds of families that are engaging in these different learning displays. And what an exciting night, or nights plural, at both of our elementaries. One of the most exciting events of the year is coming up. We have our unified basketball team that will be playing the Monument Warriors. So we're doing a big special shout out to our Palmer Ridge High School unified team and their scrimmage. And these are full community events as well. So there's a lot of activity and support from different student athlete groups, displaying inclusivity, sportsmanship, and teamwork. And March 5th, 5:30 p.m. in the Palmer Ridge High School large gym will be this next exciting event. So please come out and support these remarkable student athletes in a great game. Another big shout out, Living History for our fourth graders, our Kilmer Coyotes, in this case, transporting us into a wonderful world populated by some renowned characters throughout Colorado history. And these students and their teachers knocked the Colorado History Living Museum literally out of the park for masterfully telling the stories of those with key ties to Colorado's past. So you wowed your peers, made your families proud, and transported members of the staff into each of your historical figures' worlds. So again, big shout out. And of course, as is a customary in this wonderful environment of musical and art celebrations, we had our Lewis Palmer High School Regional Preview Concert last Tuesday, February 20th. And we have an upcoming regional preview concert that's being held tomorrow at the Palmer Ridge Auditorium. And then our next middle school concert will be held on March 12th. So additional details to come there. So big appreciation for all those efforts. We had recently an signing day for our commits to their future student athletic endeavors. So that includes TJ Mabe going to Black Hills State, Holden Wright, UNC Greeley, Owen Marinowski, Dordt University, Asher Moore at Fort Lewis College, and Cooper Havenar at the Merchant Marines. So big kudos and celebration to those students, their coaches, their families, etc. And I'm going to hover on the slide for a minute, but I'm going to allow you to proceed in the agenda before I have the privilege of introducing some fabulous new leaders. So Mrs. Upchurch, back to you.
I also want to say it's not hundreds, it was thousands. I was at Bear Creek Elementary's STEAM night, and there were thousands of kids there. It was an amazing experience. And food trucks. Food trucks. Okay, so
The event is complete without the food trucks.
the German food truck's my favorite. And Mr. Norris, did the kids operate on you? Did they take care of you?
Yeah, that surgeon that was there, that's when they took care of my shoulder. It's fantastic.
All right, so since we're taking that pause, we are going to actually, that takes us right into our next agenda item, which is C1. And I'm going to let Dr. Summers introduce our new hires that I am excited about. So Dr. Summers.
Thank you again, Mrs. Upchurch. So I am very privileged and excited to introduce our latest round of leadership hires in our district. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a brief bio of each of these fabulous leaders, and I'm going to ask each one as I introduce you to come up, briefly just say a few words. We are not expecting a speech, so that comes later. You guys can practice all of your public speaking skills for upcoming opportunities. But I just want to say before I begin how grateful we are for all of the great engagement from our communities as they support us in these hiring practices. We do our absolute best, and I do think we do an excellent job of attracting really strong leaders who are interested in joining D38. And when we engage with our communities, it's very important that we find the right person for the right place at the right time. And so while there's a lot of moving pieces and parts that go into that, what's really helpful for us is when we have great candidates that show up with focus, with vision, with determination, and then we have great committees and great feedback as we engage in continuous conversations. And those conversations are yielding what you have before you tonight. So as we move toward an official recommendation for their approval, what I'd like to do is, again, introduce each of them. So I'm going to go in order as it appears on the slide. So that means Mrs. Kim Briding, you're first up to bat. So come on up. So I'm going to I'm going to make you a little. That's a great reception. What a great reception. Okay, so Mrs. Kim Briding, currently Dean of Students at Palmer Lake since September of 2023. Done a fabulous job for us, by the way. She has extensive and highly effective classroom experience both at Bear Creek Elementary School and Palmer Lake Elementary School. She also, if you did not know this, was our Science Resource Center coordinator for 3 years. She comes to us with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and Business Administration, so that's a great skill to have. Well timed, sir. She also has a master's degree in teaching from the University of Northern Colorado and her educational specialist degree in the process of pursuing a doctorate degree down the road is also in progress. She is also a parent in our community and has had students in our schools. And here's a quote from her cover letter, just a small snippet. "My work ethic, commitment to excellence, positive energy, and hearty laugh are known throughout our district. While I do not have lengthy administrative experience to draw upon, which is not anything to be ashamed of at all, I take pride in the results that I achieved in the classroom. Since my career began, I have been rated a highly effective educator with student growth that consistently ranks top in the school." I will also tell you, when we interviewed Kim at the finalist table, she had about as much energy as I've ever seen from a candidate. In fact, it just started making me sweat thinking about how much she's like waking up at, what was it, 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning? 3:45. I can't imagine how much you're doing from that time. It makes me think about what am I actually doing with my opportunities early in the morning. But what I would say is your passion and your focus and your love for the community of Palmer Lake Elementary School really was a standout. And we're so excited to welcome you, and congratulations. And now's a chance for you to say a few words if you'd like.
Thank you, everybody, for coming here today and surprising me and supporting me. I didn't even tell my husband that I was coming here until last night. First, I wanted to thank Prairie Winds because truly you are the one who gave me my start. My kids were 14 years at Prairie Winds, and I was a room mom for over a decade there. And it was one kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Jensen, when I was holding a clipboard, helping her assess, and she's like, "Kim, have you ever thought about being a teacher?" And a week later, I was knocking on Mrs. Finnegan's door, asking her to write a letter of recommendation to get into UNC. And then Peggy Griebenow was the absolute first principal that replied to an email where I was looking for someone to host me as a student teacher. And I am so grateful that she put me in Nicole Pinnell's classroom, and a trajectory that I never could have planned. I am so grateful, and I am so grateful to walk alongside each of you every day. You're all amazing, and this staff knows the students, but they know the families, and that's what brought me back to them. So thank you, Palmer Lake, and thank you, Prairie Winds.
Well, that was a mic drop.
Oh, no, there's more. Wonderful job, Kim. All right, Miss Rachel Sellers. I know you're hiding out there somewhere. Watch your step. So, Rachel is coming back to District 38. She started her career at the one and only Ray Kilmer Elementary School from 2004 to 2008 as a school counselor. And then she departed for a time being, serving in multiple roles, including paraprofessional, elementary teacher, behavior intervention specialist, dean of students, and most recently, a couple of different assistant principal roles in Aurora Public Schools. Shout out to Aurora. She has completed a certification in educational leadership from University of Denver, a master's degree in elementary education from the University of Phoenix, a master's degree in school counseling from the University of Northern Colorado, and a bachelor's degree in psych from Northern Arizona University. Way to do that. And here's a quote from her letter. So, over the past 16 years, I found myself speaking of and incorporating the learning that I received while in your district. And in these multitude of roles, she has learned the importance of placing student needs at the center of every decision, creating systems that are responsive to student needs, creating a 90-day plan that incorporates goals and actions which will support research-based practices and steward taxpayer dollars with integrity and intentionality. When I heard about the opportunity to return to Lewis Palmer School District, I became excited about the chance to give back to the community that gave so much to me during my formative years as an educator. I want to thank you in advance for the opportunity to come back and serve this community again as a servant leader. Now, here's what I will tell you about Rachel's final interview. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in a final interview. She is warm, she is engaging, she puts immense care and thought into not just every word, but really every action. And we were so thoroughly impressed in that process that we were just very grateful that this opportunity has kind of come about. And the timing, and when I come back to right person, right place, right time, we're really excited about Rachel coming back and restarting her tenure in D38, but welcome to the principal role at Prairie Winds Elementary School. Thank you.
All I can say is thank you. I know if you're from Prairie Winds District, you can just raise your hand. I can't tell you how loved I feel in terms of you just coming out and supporting me. This is a big deal. The person with the phone up in her hand is my principal, Kim Pippinger, who traveled from Aurora to come down, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. So she is the one who, I'm gonna cry. She is the one who taught me the importance of students first, taxpayer dollars. We steward our money for our kids. Everything we do is in the name of our kids. So from everything that she taught me as she moves into retirement and as I move into the principalship, I cannot wait to team along with you and serve this community in an amazing way. You're already just blowing my mind, and I just am so grateful for you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Dr. Summers, for this opportunity.
Thank you and congratulations. Oh, but wait, there's more. Danielle Holmes. Surprised Mr. Frampton didn't bring the confetti. Maybe that's coming later, right? Mrs. Holmes, we are so thrilled to welcome you into the role of Director of Special Education. So Mrs. Holmes is no stranger to our system. She has been our special education coordinator since 2021. She served in a variety of roles, including special education coordinator, special education team leader, department chair from Lewis Palmer Elementary School, big shout out. She has her special education director license from the University of Northern Colorado. She also has her principal licensure from the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs, a master's in special education from Northwest Missouri State University, and a shout out to University of Oklahoma for the bachelor's degree in liberal studies. And here's one of the quotes from Danielle's letter. I have led special education teams at the elementary and secondary levels as a building coordinator, team lead, or district coordinator for 9 years. I have experience collaborating with both special education and general education teams, recruiting and selecting qualified staff, improving instructional practices, mentoring special education teachers to meet compliance requirements, developing professional learning opportunities, creating a positive work environment, facilitating meetings with family advocates, and fostering meaningful relationships with administrators, parents, and community members. That was all one sentence, by the way. Very, very, very well stated. What I would say about Danielle, and this was a rigorous process, and it's always hard to interview in front of people that you are working with every day. And she did such a fabulous job. We just knew the entire time, and we're so excited to be able to, I think we let you out of the office for like 5 minutes and then said, get back in here. Will you do this? And we're so thrilled that she's continuing her journey with us, and we're just excited about all the great things that you have ahead. And would you like to say a few words as well?
Yes, I also would like to thank everyone who has supported me. To be honest, I received 56 emails and text messages in the first 24 hours when it came out, so I'd love to name all of you. There's no way that I could. I so appreciate this opportunity. One of the things I didn't mention is that I actually started in special education as a parent of a child with a disability. So I come to this work through that lens first, and I just really appreciate and look forward to continuing this great work.
Congratulations again. Thank you. Oh, but wait.
There's more.
Last but not least. So, Melissa Andrews, come on up. So, Melissa is coming to us with 16 years of experience as a business-oriented director who has extensive experience in K through 12 demographic and facility planning, including skills in GIS, enrollment projections, updating board policies, capital budget forecasting, as well as process and data analytics. Her previous roles include Director of Enrollment, Community and Facilities Planning Manager, and lead cartographer with an educational background and bachelor's degree in Geography and Environmental Studies from the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. Notably, Melissa also lives within our district, and her children attended District 38 schools and also graduated from Lewis Palmer High School. And her cover letter, one of her quotes, was a key role for her has been understanding the impacts of community growth and calculating the number of students generated from new housing developments to determine the need and timing for additional classroom space. Meeting with developers, city and county planners, and various stakeholders was vital in ensuring adequate and usable site dedications or fees in lieu of land to make sure they're provided. I strongly believe that my experience and technical skills would be an excellent match for the Director of Planning, Facilities, and Grounds. And we agree. So we're very excited to welcome you on board. I can't quote anything from the interview because I don't think I sat on that interview panel, but it's really good to meet you. We're so excited to have you. Congratulations. And would you like to say a few words?
Thank you guys so much for the warm welcome. I'm very excited to get to know you guys and all of the staff in District 38. I believe that my background, especially in the planning world, will help a lot, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
We're thrilled. Thank you. And I think I'm done now, Mrs. Upchurch, so I will hand it back over to you.
And with that, I will entertain a motion. Don't go away.
It has to be official. Officialness.
Ms. Upchurch, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following administrative appointments as recommended. Kim Briding as Palmer Lake Elementary School Principal, Rachel Sellers as Prairie Winds Elementary School Principal, Melissa Andrews as Director of Planning, Facilities, and Grounds, and Danielle Holmes as Director of Special Education.
Like to second that motion?
Excellent. Ms. Wood, would you take roll call?
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Norris.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Dr. Shank.
Aye.
Miss Upchurch.
Aye. And can we have all of our new hires come up and for a picture? Welcome to the team. Now you can leave. If you wish, you can also stay. All right, moving along to C, number 2. Consider and approve position of acting superintendent. Do we want to start with, we can start with a motion or we can start with discussion? Okay, well, let me give some background. How about that? So, with our departure of Dr. Summers, between his departure and July, when whoever our new hire may be, we will be needing somebody to lead the way in acting as our superintendent. And Amber Wetstein is our current assistant superintendent, so we are inviting Amber to fill that acting role at this time. And I think that she'll do an excellent job. She's already started on the role, and we're very excited. Do you need to give a public comment?
I'm happy to.
Yes.
You want me to wait until...
No, go for it. I didn't know if Dr. Summers wanted to read a bio.
I do not
No,
have.
I did not
this
submit
much
that
bio
this
reference offhand.
position.
But I can tell you all the great things over the last couple of years.
I'll just comment, I'm humbled and grateful for your trust and confidence in me to serve in this capacity for our students, our staff, and our community. I want you to know that it's our entire team that's dedicated to ensuring a smooth transition and, importantly, maintaining momentum in achieving our collective goals together. We will continue working diligently to uphold our vision of elevating every student every day and advancing the initiatives outlined in our strategic plan. Together, we will navigate this transition with determination, focus, and a shared commitment to excellence. And thank you for your trust and support as we continue to move forward together. And I also want you to know that our entire team is committed to supporting you as a Board of Education, and we encourage you to reach out to us with your questions and concerns so that we can address those accordingly. So, thank you.
Excellent.
Ms. Upchurch, I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointment of Amber Wetstein to serve as the acting superintendent of the Lewis Palmer School District effective April 1 through June 30th, 2024.
I'd like to second that motion.
Their discussion? I just want to say that I think we will be in great hands with you and the rest of the team and leadership, and I've been very thrilled with just everything that we've been going through. With you at the helm so far, and I know that we will not be taking our feet off the gas pedal. We are going to continue pushing and working on our goals and staying focused on our students and our vision and our mission and our staff and our taxpayers. So thank you so much for being willing to step up into the role. Ms. Wood?
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Dr. Shank?
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch?
Aye. Thank you so much. Welcome to Acting Superintendent effective the end of March. Yes, let's get a picture.
Happy to serve.
Dr. Summers.
Yes. Picture time.
Picture time, why not?
Who's three of us? Okay.
Crouch down. I'm just kidding. No, you're fine. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, and so you get to stay in the seat. Moving on to C3, consider approved curriculum adoption.
Thank you. This is the second reading for the proposed curriculum. And so I won't go through the entire presentation that I presented in January, but I'm happy to go back to any slides that you'd like to revisit. I do want to review our District 38 instructional framework, and this emphasizes that curriculum, the standards, and the resources that we select are one component, a very essential component, as a tool for our students and our teachers as they learn the content, but there are other aspects of instruction that are also very important, including the strategies that teachers use to reach the students and to deliver that content, the data systems and the assessments that we use to monitor, and the PLC structures, which is the teaming structure that our teachers use to plan that instruction together and to take a look at how students are progressing in their learning. Again, this is the cycle that has been in place for some time in our district. We have
the practice of reviewing our resources on a 6-year cycle and then determining whether or not those resources are still viable or should there be a new resource proposed. We did, as you remember, open up our review process to the community for an extended amount of time, and you can see those results in your board packet through these links, and these are also available to the community if they want to take a look at each of the community members that reviewed the resources and the comments they made. And I will note that since the last time, since our first reading, we had one additional parent review the biology resource and one additional parent review the social studies resource. Overall, for biology, the ratings were very positive. They indicated that the resource was overall acceptable or superior. Some comments included that the content was factual, while others suggested the materials may be too difficult, lacked varied perspectives or student support structures. But again, as you can see in the documents I provided, the overall ratings were overall acceptable or superior. And then for social studies, again, we had one additional parent review the resources. Again, the majority of ratings indicated that the resources were overall acceptable or superior. There were comments about the positive reviews of factual information, that they did include multiple perspectives and included student engagement strategies and critical thinking. And then there were some comments that suggested the need for additional diverse perspectives and additional student supports to access the material. Those are things our teachers do, so when we do see that there might be additional supports needed for students, though that is where we depend on our teachers to modify how they're delivering the instruction to support students who need extra challenge or who might have some different needs. I'm happy to go back to any of the information we shared during the first reading or any discussion that you would like to have at this time.
I'm pretty sure you spoke to this last time, but some of the feedback that I got from the community was people were wondering why we need to buy new books at this time, because obviously history doesn't change that much over time. Perspective obviously does. But.
That's a good question. We purchase the materials for 6 years at a time. That's something that could certainly be revisited in the future. So our subscription is up for renewal. So we did reach out at Mr. Norris's request to take a look at what the cost would be to continue using our current resources, and they're really, we did not hear back from all of the vendors yet, but in looking at the biology resource, the cost is higher to renew the current resource, and it was significantly higher for just 7th grade alone. We have not heard back from 8th grade. Typically what we do when we make these purchases is we do not purchase hardcover textbooks for every student. We have a classroom set for each teacher, and then we buy all the teacher resources, and then the students have access to all of the text online, and that's what we would do with these new resources as well. So our proposal is that if we are going to need to make a purchase, we purchase the most current resources for our students versus renewing more outdated resources for approximately the same cost.
Understandable. And do the current materials meet the standards?
Much better than our proposed resources are much more aligned than the current ones. In fact, the science standards were significantly changed in recent years, and the philosophy of teaching science significantly changed, which was incorporated into those state standards. And so our current biology textbook really is not sufficient to teach that new approach to biology.
Any other discussion? Good question.
I guess the only other question I would ask is if we were looking at longer terms potentially, like 8, 10 years, does that get you a better ROI? And
Potentially, that's something we could certainly look at. That way, we may get a little bit of a discount if we're committing to an 8 or 10-year purchase versus a 6-year purchase. And I do want to stress that just because a content area is up for review, we may not change what resource we're using, but we would have to resubscribe regardless.
I do recall you saying that most of our materials are on a 6-year cycle with, we can kind of cover all the materials in that 6 years, I believe you said.
Yeah, we purchase them, and it's partly due so that we can plan for budgeting as well. So we purchase everything up front for 6 years. That has been the practice. That's certainly something we can look at moving forward if we want to change that.
And in the spring, each spring, our staff brings to us and says, this is what you can expect to see us discussing in the following school year with the cycle, the 6-year cycle. I believe you probably have, there it is, yeah. So when we're talking budget, we know that this is what's going to be budgeted for. But I also recall that there's sometimes we don't end up needing to change the resources or the curriculum that we're using. It might be sufficient. When the social studies standards was adopted in Colorado, what year was that?
I believe they were updated in 2020.
Okay, that's what I thought too, yeah. And I think we have until this year or next year to be up to date on standards, right?
Well, what we're doing is taking the approach that we are teaching the current standards and supplementing where necessary with the resources in place. And so as we look at, in this case, social studies for next year, 9th through 12th grade, and then we'll be incorporating the personal financial literacy aspects into social studies because that's where they live in the standards now, then we would take a look at our current materials and see how much they align or not with the most current standards. I do want to mention briefly that during a board work session, the question was asked about reviewing a content area off cycle, and in this case it was world language. And so we are currently working with the world language teachers to take a look at possible resources. They don't currently have a resource that is viable, and when they were last up for a review, they were not given the opportunity to make a purchase. And so that is something that I heard during that work session as a request from the board to go ahead and pursue. So we will, at some point, be bringing forward a proposal to purchase some resources for our world language teachers. So that is Spanish, French, and German.
Do we have any leverage to negotiate price when we're considering these?
We do, and so that is part of our process in pursuing these quotes. And I think to Mr. Brown's point, we could certainly take a look at, if we were to do a longer contract, we sometimes also negotiate like free training and those kinds of things as part of the proposal.
I would share also with parents that when our students, I still have a student in the school system, several of us do, that we are partnering with our teachers and our educators and our own children when they're going through their education and their homework and their books and the lectures and the lessons that our educators are engaging in the classroom. And so we still have something that's important that I've seen practiced in this district, which is what brought us to this district, was the partnership between educators and families in the education of our students. So I think that is not to be understated also. Any other discussion? Questions? No? Mr. Schwartz, did you have any questions or comments?
I have none, thank you.
All right. Do we want to make a motion?
Yeah, Ms. Upchurch, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the National Geographic 7th and 8th grade social studies and Holton Mifflin High School biology curriculum as presented.
Is there a second?
I can second.
Discussion.
I think we covered that.
Ms. Wood?
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Dr. Shank?
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ridgway, you're up. C4, financial planning and analysis. And while you're making your way up, I wanted to say thank you. You did an exceptional presentation, I thought, at the Accountability and Advisory Committee meeting just recently, and I heard so much feedback about how enlightening it was and how people learned things such as, when my property taxes go up, doesn't my school funding go up? And the answer being no. And if we have an MLO, does that mean that the state gives us less dollars, with the answer being no? And there was a lot of good information that was gleaned from that, so thank you.
Great, thanks. I'm glad to hear that. That was a fun one. I also want to say that Mr. Frampton and I will be available for pictures later. We're feeling a little bit left out in all the picture taking going on here. So, all right, moving on. I want to focus most of the time in this presentation on 24-25 budget planning.
On cue.
Very good.
On Facebook.
So 24-25, and I think I've mentioned to you all in the past that when in the recent meeting or whatever, I was a little bit hesitant on what was being presented at the state level for the School Finance Act projection for 24-25. And I've done a little bit more analysis on it, and I've got a little bit more comfort with the number, but it's still not all the way to the numbers that are being presented there. So what I want to walk you through here is again, since this is the predominant source of revenue that we receive from the School Finance Act, and then also showing the components of it from year to year, how we bridge from the 23-24 amended budget over to a projection for 24-25, and then also demonstrating how that breaks down between the operated schools and Monument Academy. If we look at the total program for this year, 23-24, we see $63.7 million was this year's amended budget for the School Finance Act. Bridging that to 24-25 projection at $67.6 million. Again, the numbers that are presented at the state are just a little bit higher than that, about almost $68 million. And the reason that I'm projecting a little bit less, and a little bit less I'll just drop you down to, is in the per pupil funding revenue rate, where the governor's budget proposal proposed 6.6% of growth on a per pupil level, and I'm sticking with a 6% even number. And the reason I'm doing that, when we look at the individual pieces of the projected revenue stream for next year, just like this year, the biggest amount of the growth is being demonstrated in local property taxes. And we do have a couple things that will be increasing, given what we know right now, a local property tax revenue for the School Finance Act. Number one being that we'll have our final increment from 26.164 mils up to 27 mils even, and that'll be our final growth in that mill rate number. Also, the way that the special session transpired back in November is that they had instituted kind of a one-year tax credit, or one-year one-year exemption of property value, and that would theoretically expire next year as well. But beyond that, 24 is not a full revaluation cycle. And if you look at our history, not just of our school district, but really all school districts in the region, in these even numbered years when it's not a full revaluation cycle, we never grow, not double-digit percents, we never even grow more than 3% in a non-revaluation cycle. 23 was a full revaluation cycle. That's why everything went up quite a bit, and that's what you see is odd years you get the full revaluation cycle, even years are that in between, kind of more of a desk appraisal, if you will, for property. So when I did the calculations, I got us up to something around $26.8 million of local property taxes for next year. And again, the governor's proposal is showing a full $28 million. So So that's why I'm wanting to settle in here at a number around 6%, and hope that the Joint Budget Committee and those folks will be able to bridge that gap and get us up to the full governor's proposal. But I'd like to see a little bit more, because if that local property tax number does not come up, then that means state share is going to have to increase, right? And so if you look at the proposal from the governor's office, the state share increase is only about $100,000, and this scenario would have a state share increasing about $900,000. So that's a big difference, and I just want to make sure they can get over that hurdle on a full statewide basis before I overcommit us to something bigger for next year. Does that make sense? Or maybe I talked in a little circle there. I'm not sure.
Mr. Ridgway?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, by the way.
Hello.
You look great today.
Thanks. So do you.
Thank you. Good face for radio.
Yes, perfect.
So, question for you. What are the state revenues from fiscal year ending in 2022 to the end of June in 2023, and what's the projection for the end of June in 2024? What are the deltas?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't have anything on hand to answer that. If you're talking about total state budget revenue, especially, are you talking about?
No, I'm just talking about total revenues. Forget about budget for a minute. What do we take in as a state? And where I'm going specifically is, are state revenues flat? Are they down? Or are they up? And is the Department of Education's proportion of that delta equitable?
So generally speaking, state general fund revenue is over $30 billion, and it has been increasing. And so TABOR refunds are happening. They are happening last year. They'll happen this year. They'll happen next year in all likelihood. I believe, I don't have exact numbers, but I believe that the education, relative share of education to that has actually been shrinking slightly over these years as healthcare has been expanding at a much larger clip.
Okay. So theoretically, we're taking from Peter to pay Paul. I won't say robbing.
It is a little bit of shuffling for sure, and that's part of the reason why the legislature passed the Mill Levy Act a few years ago to standardize the School Finance Act mill levy for all school districts across the state at either 27 mills or the amount that they were being assessed at the point of detaboring. So that was definitely a strategy made at the state level, which has allowed them in these last few years to direct revenue growth in other places besides education on a proportionate basis, as you were saying.
Right. So at some juncture, we as voters need to understand that if we prioritize education and our elected officials do not, we should ask our elected officials to reconsider what their constituents value.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. It's important I think, for us as a board and a community to understand, so thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Please continue.
Okay. So the year-to-year change of total revenue from 63.7 to 67.6 is just under $4 million. Again, that's total district. Then, as I started last year, I wanted to really break this down into rates and volumes on revenue, rates and volumes on expenses, and draw a strong correlation of that. Because we're projecting really flat enrollment year to year, Monument Academy is wanting to project literally flat enrollment. So, so the operated schools are showing an 8 student increase. Again, that's just immaterial. And it bears out when you look at the far right-hand corner, lower right-hand corner here, where you see the breakdown in rate, volume, and mix of the variance of that $3.9 million. Again, $672,000 of that would go to Monument Academy just as a rate variance, and $3.2 million of that as a total variance to the operated schools. But as you can see, $50,000, $35,000 in volume and mix means it is all rate variance for the operated schools as well. So that again is the important starting point when we want to transition from what is going to happen with revenue to what's going to happen with expense. And so I'll go to that on the next slide unless there are more questions about School Finance Act revenue.
Any other questions? All right, sir.
Okay, so as we go into expense, and really one of the things I wanted to establish last year that I want to reemphasize and continue on this year and on into the future is this strong correlation between what happens with revenue in terms of rate variances, volume variances on revenue, in terms of rate variances and volume variances on expenses. You okay there?
I just get all choked up when we talk about expenses.
Yeah, I know. It's emotional stuff. I really, yeah. I appreciate that, though. So, so again, I start on this page with the School Finance Act budget drivers, talking about PPR and pupil count. And at this point on this slide, I have peeled away Monument Academy, so I'm focusing just on the operated schools here. So it's the just operated school portion growing by that $3.2 million total that we established on the prior page. And then again, breaking that down into rate and volume variances and starting to apply that to our expense load. And our expense load is, as we would expect, being a service industry, is highly focused on our staffing. Our personnel expense in the amended budget this year is 81.8% invested in staff, 18% invested in all other non-personnel, or as I label it here, implementation costs. So, so from that $3.2 million of new revenue, there are a couple of what I call first take adjustments, not first take as in priority, just easily identifiable and things that we definitely want to keep an eye on and make accounting for right off the top. Number one, if you recall, when we passed the amended budget last month, it was an unbalanced budget, a little bit more spend than we had revenue coming in. Our adopted budget for the first of the year, we always want to have it as a balanced budget. And the amended budget is when we figure out, well, how much money did we come into the year with? If we came in with a little bit more, we can have an unbalanced budget. If we came in with a little bit less, it'll be unbalanced the other way. So when you're using that as a launch point, you want to true that up so you don't launch into a new year with a launch point variance that at that point is 2 years old. Okay, so 264,988 is kind of a first take adjustment that would rebalance, if you will, again, the amended budget from this year because of that planned drawdown due to an excess fund balance carry forward. Then $50,000, this obviously is a very round number estimate for property and liability insurance. We are definitely appreciative of our insurance and covering all the things that we had with our broken pipes over Martin Luther King weekend, but that's going to obviously result in an increase in rates as we go forward. So I hope that $50,000 is enough, in all honesty, with that. So we get down to this highlighted level of net new money, $2.9 million. And then we want to break that down. How much of that new money are we going to invest in personnel and how much of it we're going to invest in implementation costs? The variables that I have right there say that I'd like to start with a 90% estimate of going into personnel costs and 10% on implementation costs. So that takes the $2.9 million. We identify $2.6 million of that 2.9 then to be focused on personnel. Then I want to carry that going across the sheet here and say, well, how much of that personnel, early personnel estimate might we spend on a rate basis, meaning changing pay for our existing staff year to year? How much of that might change in terms of a volume basis, meaning additional staff positions? I have a very nominal number in here on that volume basis, and that's for a couple of elementary school positions where we've had particular stress in terms of capacity there, and also our desire to begin investing more in the CTE programs at the secondary level. So targeting right now, again, these are the early assumptions. So we're just kind of, I'm walking you through all this and say, here's how I've put this together, and but then starts the opportunity to say, let's push and talk up more about this. But that would be $2.3 million worth of potential investment into a rate change for personnel, meaning for pay schedules. And so they carry that over here into this other upper right-hand box to say, how can that translate? What would that translate into in terms of a year-to-year pay change average across the district? It's not across the board, average across the district, right? And so what I am modeling out there so far is a 5.85% pay change average across the district. And that really comes full circle with the pattern that I wanted to establish last year, is when you see a revenue rate change at X percent, in this case 6%, the expense rate change I want to have is really going to be right tucked underneath that, right? So there should be strong correlation between that revenue rate change and the expense rate change. So that revenue rate change of 6% here is projecting towards a 5.85% potential average across the district change for compensation, and that's for gross pay. And what this little table also can tell you is if you wanted to push 5.85 to 7.3, you can see on the far right-hand corner, well, how much more money does that involve? That's almost $600,000. If you go from 2.3 million to 2.9 million here on the far right side, to do that extra 1.5%, it's going to cost $600,000. So those are increments that we can keep in mind as we go through the process. If we want to try and strive for more, we're going to have to try and find it somewhere else. Or if the state budget comes in $600,000 higher, hey, that would be an easy translation if that's what we, again, decide to do at that point. So again, this is really just an initial look to kind of frame up some of those high-level assumptions and how it would play out based on what I know now. Next steps would certainly be going through the staff collaboration committee, because they're an important part of this process now, as well as the financial transparency committee, especially talking about our key variables here in terms of how much new money do we want to devote to personnel versus implementation costs, how much of this do we want to devote to rate versus volume. So those are kind of the key starting points that really frame up the budget at a high level, and then we can do the detail work underneath that. Questions on that?
Sir.
Yes.
So when I'm looking at this net new money, that doesn't seem like a lot to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you say $600,000 would be what we would need, then my mind immediately goes to, well, where could we pull that from within our existing budget? And what wiggle room do we have to do that, to make sure that we are getting up to parity? That's obviously one of our board goals, is to get our pay up to parity with our competitors. And I don't see this doing it.
No, and the challenge, we took that challenge last year, and what we did was actually reduce staffing at a few locations, because part of our identification was, hey, there is opportunity for through attrition to increase efficiency and identify a pool of money that can be basically turned from volume into rate, and that's what we did last year. I don't believe that our leadership is seeing that same opportunity this year, going from 23-24 into 24-25. So there is not anything identified to this point for something like that. If you look beyond staffing volume levels, then you're then looking at implementation costs, where we're starting only with a pool, only, quote unquote, only of $9.5 million. So if you were to say, hey, we need $600,000 out of that, well, you're talking an 7.5% to 8% reduction in implementation costs from the prior year. And so that's a big step out of that. Not that we can't try and dig into that, and I think that's part of budget process to make sure that we do, and make sure that there's nothing patently inefficient going on in there. But that's just some caveat and some hesitation that perspective I'd want to provide is, it's not always just go say, let's go find $600,000, because we're not pulling $600,000 in this case off of a $50 million budget. We're pulling it off a $9 million budget.
Right. Understood. I'll cut down on the coffee.
Okay.
Might help.
All right. Well, that'll do 300 right there.
Right? And then my second question is, there's obviously a lot of buzz and talk up in Denver about redoing the School Finance Act, with D38 being one of the districts that will, understand there's a hold harmless in that, but that D38 will be affected by that. But I've also heard some say, nah, it's not going to happen. Some say, yeah, you better watch for it, it's going to happen. How would we adjust? How does this take that into account?
A good question. This does not take any of that into account yet. And as we probably should have expected, any attempt to quantify the School Finance Act based on kind of the existing societal and political priorities would result in new money not coming to D38 because we do not possess any of those demographic elements that typically are being looked for improved funding. So the draft of numbers that came out from that committee showed 13 school districts would actually receive less funding under that new model than under the current model, and we would be one of the 13. We would be, I'm trying to remember offhand, I think about number 5 in terms of the largest decreases. So there's potential of that happening, but it's really, really early in the process, and so I don't even know. I can't put anything into place right now that says, hey, this is what would happen. But it's something that we want to get engaged in for sure. And that's why having some representation in Denver is always very helpful for us. I'll talk a little bit about our own bill here in a second. But as something like this were to come to bear, we really would want to be engaged on that strongly and make sure that our voice is heard in that.
Can we get a letter drafted?
If you'd like, certainly.
That would be great. I would like to share that with far and wide.
Okay. I will take that task.
Thank you. Sir?
If that does come to fruition, what are we losing from a monetary value?
Well, again, that draft report, which was if all things went in according to the way that committee had quantified it, would have said that our funding would reduce by about $3 million. Again, things, and Tiffany mentioned a hold harmless provision. Those are common with such changes. I still would have a hard time believing that all would come into place, especially all at once, especially when you look at Douglas County under the same report would go down by $26 million. Again, they're much bigger than us, but that's still real money even to Douglas County. And so I want to look at it and I want to be cautious with it and intentional with it, but I also don't want to overvalue that at this point until we know more.
No need for any kind of contingency plans at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay.
And then I have one other question.
Okay.
Okay, so when I'm looking at our revenue versus our expenses on this sheet,
okay,
right where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I look at the report on the next set of slides that you have, and it shows 94,977,730. Are you going to explain the difference in why that number is different than the number on this?
So I can, in response to your question, I definitely would like to do that. And
yeah.
What this is the difference between the general fund, fund number 10, which at the School Finance Act is the source of revenue that we're analyzing here. What we see there, and we look at the total district and all the funds and all the sources of revenue that goes beyond the School Finance Act. Those funds and those revenues are particularly pointed for certain things. We do things with them, whether it's transportation or fee for service or nutrition services, et cetera. There's a whole host of things that we do with other sources of revenue. What we can't do with those sources of revenue is basically set pay, right? Because most of our staff is getting paid with this bucket of revenue. And we can't use that source of revenue to try and push a pay schedule change back into the general fund. We have to start in the general fund, set the pay there, and let it percolate out to those other sources of revenue. So those other sources of revenue help us hire numbers of staff, but we don't want to use that to set a rate when most of it's happening here in the general fund.
Any other for discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Back to the 5.8% potential increase in pay.
Okay.
If we factor that in over the last 4 or 5 years, what's the net increase on a macro basis of pay for our staff?
That's a good question, and I want to get those numbers for you to provide a more precise answer. But definitely there's been, especially when you combine it with last year being double-digit average across the district, there has been significant increases over recent times.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to understand that if somebody was earning $50,000 a year 5 years ago, what they're earning today, and to see what that percentage delta is, with full respect for the fact that competitive areas may be doing the exact same thing or better, it's so important to understand the significance of that.
Understood and agreed. And that's definitely some context I could apply. Either I bring back to you either in the next work session if you like, or as I start to bring pay schedule proposals, it definitely could show it in that context as well.
Right. Yeah. It's in some cases it can be significant. It's just important, I think, for both the staff, the community, and the board to understand that. So thank you.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Ridgway, before we let you go, I'm sure there's more information you want to talk to us about.
I did just want to quickly talk about our own bill, and we have moved on to the State House of Representatives. We've cleared the State Senate on a unanimous vote on the floor of the Senate. And I just want to reiterate again what we're doing with this bill, and this is a particular chart that I've shown before, but I want to show again because I've talked about this within the year, intra-year cash balance trend that happens, and why we are now in February at the low point, and why we're kind of digging into the couch cushions and things to make sure that we have all the funding for the things we need at this point before our property taxes start coming in here in March. So this V that I've talked about before, if you connect the tops of all the blue columns, you get this V shape of the cash flow trend. And this is the current pattern. If I go and I superimpose kind of what would happen under the bill, Senate Bill 24017, which would take state share, and instead of, say, paying the same amount every month for the 12 months, it would specifically move state share away from the property tax collection months of March, May, and June, and really start to flatten this whole curve out. So the dotted line represents what I model out as the proposed pattern of cash over the months. And so it's a much flatter pattern, but I still anchor it at the same point in February because that is strategically how we should be doing it, to make sure that we are starting the year with enough cash but not too much cash. We don't want to be holding excess reserves to manage cash flow. We want to hold the appropriate amount. And so it's at the beginning of the year, what changes then is where they start at the beginning of the year, and that's the difference that really becomes a different perspective for our community. So we're not sitting, quote unquote, sitting on $15 million of cash at the beginning of the year. We instead will be looking at something at less than $8 million of cash, and so as a requirement. And this is something that's been happening year after year, and so relieving that burden, if you will give us a one-time opportunity to say, what do we want to do with $8 million worth of accumulated fund balance that after the bill passes would be, in theory, excess reserves, because we no longer need to hold those reserves year after year to manage the cash flow. So a one-time opportunity for us, as it would be for most school districts in the state, to the tune of over $600 million across the state. And so, again, we've received great reception at the Capitol and amongst our colleagues for this. And so we look forward to our next step, which is the House Education Committee on March 14th. Where I will be up there to provide testimony for the bill and answer questions from the committee members.
We would love to write a letter in support of that as well, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Or when I say we, I guess I have a mouse in my pocket. I, as one board member, would.
Okay.
We may also, sorry to interject, but I think we were talking about the possibility of making that our trip to the Capitol Day. So I don't think we've formalized that as of yet, but we're working with Ms. Atwood to see if we might be able to kind of do a two birds with one trip kind of thing.
That would be excellent.
Yep, little field trip.
Yep.
So that's all I had, unless
Okay.
there are other questions.
Any other questions before we move on? Mr. Schwartz, any more questions before we move on, sir?
No, I think I've exhausted my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can come back to the table now, sir. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ridgway. Okay, moving on to C number 5, approval of consent agenda.
Ms. Upchurch, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Discussion. Anybody want to pull anything? Are we good to vote? No discussion. All right, look at us. Okay, Ms. Wood.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Norris.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Dr. Shank.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye. And with that, one more quick item, future agenda planning. We have an agenda planning session coming up. Is there anything for the good of the order that my fellow board members would like to see on our next work session and/or regular board meeting? Mr. Brown?
Nothing I can think of right now.
Dr. Shank?
Can't think of anything.
Mr. Norris? Mr. Schwartz?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to just make sure we keep the advancement of the CTE, advancement and growth of CTE curriculum in the forefront so that we are continue to move swiftly and achieve results that benefit our students that may not be attending four-year institutions but have wonderful job opportunities as they get out of school.
We will have that on our upcoming work session.
Thank you.
That will go along with our board goals that we're discussing. Thank you so much for keeping that at the forefront. All right. If anything pops into your mind, please feel free to send over a quick email to Ms. Wood or Dr. Summers, Ms. Wetstein, myself. And with that, we are adjourned at 7:32.